All right. Sorry about that, guys. So I'm going to talk about carb loading for endurance athletes because I know there's more people out there than just bodybuilders, and I've trained runners, marathon runners, triathletes, people that play sports, all kinds of stuff. So I've noticed when endurance athletes, when I say that, I mean like swimmers, runners, triathletes do carb loading, they seem to just take whatever they're normally doing and just pack a bunch of carbs on top of it. That's not always going to work because if you're on a steady diet while you're training, you're going to have your tank half, 3/4 full, and then you start putting in all these carbs, it's going to spill over, and you're just going to get fat, get watery, and it's not going to give you the most amount of energy. Now, there is a way to carb load to where you can actually get more energy in the gas tank than what it's designed to hold. And this is what bodybuilders try to do because they do this because it literally stretches the muscle when they get really lean, and it stretches the skin over the muscle, and they get a leaner look when they go on stage. But to do this, you have to deplete first. So you deplete all your carbs, and then while there's still a demand for glycogen is what the body turns the carbs into for energy, of course. It will release extra enzymes looking for those carbohydrates. So if you're in a depleted state with no carbs and you're putting demand on your body for energy, it will release more of those enzymes than it usually does. So that way, when you go back to putting the carbs in, it can grab extra carbs and fill it in the muscle. And it's what we call it bodybuilding supersaturation. It pretty much packs more carbohydrates into the muscle than what it's designed to hold. Now, this is important because you guys want the most energy for your event. And when I do this with endurance athletes, they wake up feeling really good and they're ready to go. I don't like doing it for bodybuilding because if you overshoot the mark, then they get watery because they spill over and they can look like shit on stage. But for endurance athletes, if you pack carbs in and you overshoot a little bit, you get a little watery, the water comes off when you start running, it's not that big a deal. You're not doing this for looks, you're doing this for performance. So you can actually make sure you get enough carbs in there. Now, I finally got my fucking board fixed. We're gonna pull that up. And so most of you guys that know me know I'm big on the 50-30-20 when it comes to dieting. What I mean by 50-30-20 is 50% carbs, 30% protein, and 20% fat. So now, if you're doing training for an endurance event, you should be on a good diet. You shouldn't be carb cutting. You should be fucking doing keto. You should be on a well-balanced diet. Most of the time, for what I call a high carb day, this would be the original numbers off their weight. Well, if this is like their baseline numbers, what their high carb day would be whatever their carbohydrate count is times 15%. And that usually gives you what a high carb day is. Now, sometimes it's going to be more than that, but very rarely. Since if somebody was depleting like zero carbs for a long time, I'd probably give them like their baseline carbs times 1.5 because you could do, and that would give you a really high carb day. But I like sticking with this one here, and that's because, number one, I like to put fats in on the high day because the muscle cells need repair, and it's going to pull more water in the muscle. And number two, for endurance athletes, you shouldn't be on a low-carb diet, so you shouldn't need a shit ton of carbs to carb load. Just being on a regular everyday diet and then be like, well, I'm going to eat a bunch of cake and pancakes and shit, that's not going to fucking do it. You're going to have to do this right, just like every other athlete, if you want to get the most out of your event. So, let's look at my notes here. So, let's see. I guess I could crunch some numbers really quick. Let's say somebody weighs about 200 pounds, right? So, let's just go average guy, 200 pounds. He has a decent metabolism, so we'll go times 15 because that's what I do for medium metabolism type people. And I'll go into that in another video later. So that's about 3,000 calories. Shit, that looks like crap. All right, so you're looking at, let me make this big. So you're looking at carb-wise, 375 grams of carbs, 225 grams of protein, and 67 grams of fat. So that's your baseline numbers, what you start out at. So if that is your carb count, then your high carb day is going to be roughly around 430 grams of carbs. All right. And you're going to have the fats in on that too. Now, that being said, let's say your event's on a Saturday. So what I like to do is, let's go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Here's week 1, week 2, Saturday, Sunday. And the event is going to be, hope I don't fuck this up. Week 1, week 2, let's say the event's going to be here. So you want to be carb loaded by this day here, the second Saturday. So let's say you've kept around your number of carbs. You're around 300, let's say about 375 grams of carbs. Because, I mean, you're doing some training, weight training and stuff, and you're doing the running and swimming and all that. You need the carbs. So I wouldn't necessarily cut them out. I would just stay on that diet. And if anything, you might need to increase food as you get leaner, if you're getting leaner while you're doing this. So let's say you're going to start depleting. I would just slowly taper down the carbohydrates until, if you're resting over the weekend, it's like 0 carbs, and then slowly bring them back up to where you have like 2 days off prior. So this Thursday and Friday here, you're going to be off, no training. And you're just going to rest and eat and hydrate. So I would be like, let's see, 375. This is just roughly, if I would sit down and figure it out, I might go more. Well, you could go 250. Let's go 150. Let's go around 60. If you're training on those days, on Saturday, Sunday, you might want to stay around 60 to 100. But if you're not training, you could go 0. So I'd say anywhere from 0 to 60 on these days. And then Monday, start bringing it back up. So, I mean, these are rough, like 125. Let's go 250, 300. And then these 2 days here, because your high day is around 400, you could do, get this out of the way here. You can go from 450 to 500. And then if you notice that you're stuffed and you really can't eat that much the next day, then on Friday, drop it down back to like, I would say anywhere from 400 to 300, depending on how you feel. If you're still hungry, because sometimes people get really depleted, and it takes 2 or 3 days to recover. Because you want to take those days off and you want to get the carbs in so that by Saturday, by the morning of the event, you're completely refreshed. You're recovered. There's no soreness, no nothing, and your gas tank is fucking full and ready to go. So that way you just eat a decent light breakfast like an hour before you get out there, and you go out there, you fuck it up, and you go home and enjoy the rest of your day. So you want to gauge how you are on Friday. So Friday, you're like, man, I'm waking up, I'm starving, I'm thirsty. Keep eating. Go another 400 or 500 grams. If you're up and you're bloated and you don't feel good, if you're bloated during this, you need to drink more water. But if you feel like you've had enough, your muscles are tight and everything, drop it down and don't cut your carbs up, but go around 300 and just gauge it from there. And like I said, if you overeat a little bit and spill over, it's not a big deal because the water's going to come off when you run. It's not going to be that big of a deal. But definitely these 2 days here, you're not going to be doing shit but resting. And then this is the big day. And then Sunday, you're going to be like eating cake and shit because you're celebrating, because you're done. And you're going to justify eating all this shit food, and you're probably going to rebound, and you're going to want to go back on a diet after that. Let's just be honest. So cake and shit on Sunday. So I like this approach better for endurance athletes because you can hold more energy going into the event. Bodybuilders do this, but I don't like doing that for bodybuilders because you always undershoot it, overshoot it. When somebody's really lean for bodybuilding, I can calculate dead on what macros they need for the most part. Plus, I've been working with them for a while, so I know what's too much and too little. I'd rather feed them exactly what they need to have and give them a few days off and let their gas tanks fill up almost to the brim to where their muscles are tight, but it's not spilling over. Marathoners and stuff, have at it. Now, this doesn't mean go out and eat a bunch of Doritos and shit. You got to be smart about what you eat because you want the carbs to be quality. You don't want stuff that's going to get in there and burn up immediately, but you don't want to get like a lot of brown rice and stuff. It's going to take forever to process. So what kind of carbs would be best? And you don't need to eat just the carbs. I mean, you need to put protein and everything with it too because, yeah, that's not going to be used for energy, the protein and the fats, but they're going to repair the muscles. The muscles are what's going to push you through the event, even the endurance fibers. So along with getting the carbs and having the insulin spikes to create the protein synthesis, which is going to cause recovery and fill your gas tank up and push all the nutrients in the muscle and blah, 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 science, science, science. You're also going to need the building blocks to repair what you've been tearing down so that you're 100% going into the event so you're not starting like with a handicap, starting behind. So you want to make sure and honestly, if you're looking for an excuse to eat shit food before the event, oh, it's carb loading, we're going to go out and drink and eat pizza and shit. You're not really being serious about doing this because there's somebody else eating right that's going to be there. It's going to tear your ass up the next day. So what are good carb sources for this? I'm not big on using fruits and stuff because I don't want your liver to get filled with the glycogen first. I want it to go into the muscles. I don't like using fruits. Fruits are for people that are trying to gain size and you want to trigger insulin at certain times of the day, things like that. I like to use like medium, faster digesting carbs like rice, potatoes. Sweet potatoes are fine. Brown rice is fine, but not for carb loading. For carb loading, you want the faster carbs because you do want some of the insulin spike in order so that the protein synthesis starts and any catabolic stuff that's going on gets shut off. So you turn completely to building muscle, recovering, getting ready for the event, rather than playing catch up because your muscles are torn down and you haven't started the recovery process yet. So potatoes, rice. White rice is like one of the best carbs on the planet Earth. Even I use jasmine. Jasmine's fine. You can do I wouldn't do a lot of gluten and stuff because for people that are sensitive like myself, you don't have to have celiac disease. If you're just sensitive to it, you'll get bloated and stuff, and that's going to make it uncomfortable to go out and do the event the next day. So if you do oats, do like gluten-free oats. Like Ezekiel bread products are fine. Now these are slower. The oats and the Ezekiel bread's a little slower. If anything, I tell you what, if you had 2 days of carb loading, like day 1, day 2, this would be all your rice and taters, like they say where I'm from. And then if you wanted to go the slower carbs, like the brown rice and shit, I would do that on day 2. So I would say you could do brown or white rice. It doesn't even matter. I use white rice. Even when I'm dieting for bodybuilding, if I'm going to use slower carbs, I'll use the Okinawan sweet potatoes because brown rice seems to not digest as well, but the Okinawan sweet potatoes do really well for me. So if I want a slow carb that digests easy, I'll use those. Now, that being said, the only exception to the brown rice is a brand called Gingimine because they take the fucking husk off of it, so it actually processes really good too. But the first day of the carb loading you're slowly working your carbs up, but those 2 days where you're taking off, I would eat white rice and all the way through, honestly. I would use oats for breakfast, Ezekiel bread for breakfast, and the rest of the day would be rice. At night, I would put some Okinawan sweet potatoes just so you have slower digesting carbs while you sleep. So that's how I would do it. And that doesn't matter if it's day 1 or 2. So you could do it with all fast carbs the first day, slow the second day. But what I like to do, I'll show you. And this works fine for me because even if you're doing the slow carbs for your first meal of the carb loading day, you're going to be so insulin sensitive that it's gonna get in there. Just a typical either day of carb loading. Like meal 1 would be the oats, Ezekiel, all that shit. All your other meals, the rice. Maybe your last couple of meals, like I do 7 because I'm up all day. I would do the sweet potatoes, the Okinawan sweet potatoes. Because those are going to digest slower, and you want it to digest as you sleep so it gets you through the night. This whole bed on an empty stomach, it's a fucking myth. It makes you lose weight in the morning, and it's all like superficial. It's not even real weight being lost. And with these two meals, I would do the slower proteins like the steak and the salmon and shit. In this, you could use chicken breast, turkey breast, or white fish, not salmon, just the white fish. The salmon would be at night. So those are the type of carbs I would use. The whole point of this is to deplete before you load so you can hold more energy. That's the whole gist of this training. Don't just say, well, I'm eating these carbs and stuff. Oh, my event's tomorrow, so I'm going to go eat some pancakes and shit, because you're just going to that's not going to be used as efficiently. If you take the time and deplete yourself over 1 week and then load over the second week, you will tear it up. And I know because I've done this a bajillion times with people. And every time that I get a triathlete or a marathon runner and they work with me and they do my type of training, or at least incorporate my type of training with what they're already doing and follow the diet, they always come out saying, I did so much better than I usually do. And I've had this happen more than once. So don't stereotype. Everybody stereotypes me thinking I can just do bodybuilding. Now, what the fuck was I going to talk about? Oh, here is a bonus tip. So I think I've went over everything in my notes. Yeah, I did. On the morning of the event, just eat something light, like a decent, don't do a huge breakfast, but do something that's going to even get hungry and that will digest in an hour or so. If you're eating right, your metabolism is going to be decent, so it'll digest in an hour so you can go do your run, do your event, triathlon, whatever it is. Now let's talk about during the event. Let's see. So this can be applied for a triathlon or a marathon. We're going to call it this for bodybuilding. It's called the intra-workout nutrition, but I've learned how to apply it for the triathlons and marathon runners to where it helps. So there's going to be a solution made up of carbs, which I use. Examples are Glycofuse, Carbolize. These are name brands, guys. I'm not sponsored, so I can say whatever the fuck I want. Carbolin, shit. Sorry for my 6-year-old handwriting. I like to put the aminos in there. Some people, it makes them a little sick to their stomach, so test this out. If it makes you sick to your stomach, then don't put them in there. Not BCAAs. I don't like using BCAAs. They're incomplete. I like EAAs. I would like to try it one time with some creatine just because that's going to create the ATP that makes your muscles fire, so that might actually be beneficial. If you do it, do monohydrate, do like 5 to 10 grams maybe. Since you guys aren't bodybuilders, I'll do 5. That's optional, but definitely the carbs are the most important. Find some type of electrolyte solution to put in there, like liquid IV or those Propel packets, something to where you're getting your sodium, your potassium, all that stuff in there too, so you're not going to cramp during the run. People do stuff like take a bag of chips with them to eat when they run. Just fucking put your electrolytes in the solution. You don't want shit on your stomach anyway. You don't want all the blood going to your stomach to digest food while you're running. You want that shit in your muscles. This intra-workout, the types of carbs and stuff I use, it doesn't stay in your bloodstream, like it doesn't stay in your stomach line for like 3 minutes. It's gone. It's designed to go in there and get into your system instantly, so your blood doesn't rush to your stomach to be wasted digesting food when it needs to be in your muscles. So if you're just doing a marathon or doing a run, last time I had somebody do this, those belts with the tons of little water bottles and stuff, I'd do a few of those with this solution, like mix this up and then pour it into a few of those bottles, split it up. And on the other bottles, just put regular water, because you need regular water too. You can't just do this because the carbs and stuff are going to require water, and you're also going to need water because you're doing a lot of endurance shit. So you want to do like drink one, drink a little bit of the other, stuff like that. When you start losing some steam, or you notice you're kind of shuffling instead of running, drink one of those, put some water down too, you'll pep right back up. That's the best way I've told marathon runners to do it. Now for a triathlon, you can get a little bit more technical. Because I know the triathlon here, the way they have is the swims first, the bike is second, and the run is last. So during the bike part, put your intra-workout solution into a little Camelback. Now, keep some regular water bottles on your bike. Keep some little tiny, cute little water bottles you guys carry on you. That's fine. But do a Camelback mix. Let's see. For the solution, do like 50 to 75 grams of carbs. Since you'll get through the bike pretty decent depending on the length. I think if you did 75, you might be pushing it, might be a little bloated. But that all depends on how diluted you make it. If you make it really diluted, you don't necessarily have to finish the whole Camelback when you get there, but just the fact that you're sipping on the carbs and the aminos while you're going is going to help. So I think last time I did it, it was a female, so I did 50. You can try 50, and then if that works, try 75, but you're going to find a limit where you're like, oh, that's too much, even no matter how much water, because you can only get so much water, so much carbs down. But dilute it to where you at least want to get to where you can dilute it with enough water to where 50 doesn't bloat you. And then you can try 75, but at least 50 grams of carbs and like 5 to 10 grams of aminos. And then 5 grams. The creatine's experiment. I haven't tried that yet, but it just makes sense to use creatine, honestly. Because even doing it during my training, I can tell a difference. So now you do your swim, get on the bike, and as you're biking, just sip on it. You don't have to finish the whole bag, but just make a conscious effort to drink it. As long as you're comfortable, keep drinking. If you start getting uncomfortable in the gut, stop. Stop and try to drink some regular water. But the goal is to get enough of that down, enough regular water down, that by the end of the bike, you almost feel 100% where you can do the run. Now, this sounds crazy, but the last 2 people I had do this during the triathlon here on island said that by the time they were done with the bike, they were more than ready for that run. And the run was a lot easier because whatever energy stores they lost during the swim, during the bike, they've already replaced. And now they got a full tank of gas on the run when everybody else is on fucking half a tank. And plus, with the tactics I train them with, and I'll do this in another training, like the types of weight training movements, like the step-ups in order to get up hills. Because like one tactic I like is instead of just half-assing up the hill then coasting down, is to fucking blow the hill out of the water and then coast down. And because you can train your muscles to do high power, step-ups and stuff to do that. And if your gas tank is full, you're going to be more likely to do stuff like that and recover while everybody else is still dragging ass because they haven't replaced their fuel. So the intra-workout during the bike part of the triathlon can be fucking crucial. And like I said, test all this out because some people this shit doesn't agree with, and different carb sources agree. Like glycofuse works good for me, but if I were to do like Vitargo because it's thick, it blows the shit out of me. I cannot do Vitargo. I know some people of Asian descent, because some of the carb products involve corn, it messes them up. But the ones that are just rice powder and sometimes potatoes work very well. So glycofuse is a cyclic dextrin. So it's just like a molecule. So that usually works with most people. I haven't had anybody complain about glycofuse or the Carbolize. But Carbolin, Vitargo, those are hit or miss with some people. That's why I usually tell people glycofuse or Carbolize are the main brands. If you want more info on that, just message me and I'll send you the brand names and who makes them and all the info about them that I've got. But these are crucial tactics that can definitely bring up your game if you're really trying to do well for an event. I would express proper nutrition through the entire training process, and then I would do this deplete load and then do the intra workout and get the most out of it. And I mean, it's not, I don't think anybody would ever consider this cheating. It's just your knowledge is better than them, and knowledge is part of it. You knowing what to do is going to give you better results. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You're not doing anything sneaky or anything like that. You're just fucking, you're maximizing the science behind it. You're getting the most out of it because you want to win that bad. That's all it comes down to. So I think I covered everything. I hope you guys got something out of that. I take requests on these trainings because I'd rather talk about what you guys want to hear about. But if not, I just come up with some shit that I haven't talked about in a while and go for it. So you guys have a good week, and I will talk to you all later.